question is, how long can we continue on this trajectory of drawing down inventory? And I think that is the biggest concern of the market.
Why would I want to blow up the global financial system?
Corn, soybean, wheat conditions are all deteriorating, and JP Morgan is warning of a potential global food crisis.
So Donald Trump has done yet something else moronic. He's now threatened a global food crisis, and our dominance in the world is now endangered because of this cockamamie plan that they hatched, which might actually destroy our ability to lead the world. And we might become an afterthought after this disastrous idea. Anna has more.
Yes, well, there is some new reporting in the Wall Street Journal that gives us some insight on what was happening behind the scenes in the lead up to President Trump's decision to start a war with Iran beginning on October 28th. And turns out that there were some members of his administration who were giving him the appropriate warnings. He just chose to ignore them. Namely, when former Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, warned him of the following. Then Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, told Trump that killing Iran's supreme leader would likely usher in a more hardline regime open to acquiring nuclear weapons. Tehran would rush to close the Strait of Hormuz, destabilizing the global energy market. And it would strike US forces and partners in the Middle East, prompting questions about American resolve and reliability with allies. And guess what? Literally all of those things happened. Now, Tulsi Gabbard is no longer DNI, and Trump is surrounded by a bunch of Israel first individuals who do not care about our economy, how this war is destroying our standing on the international stage. And so let's talk a little bit about the consequences of that. So what Trump has done as a result of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the limited supply of oil and liquefied natural gas transiting through the Strait of Hormuz is he's tapped into our strategic petroleum reserve. But here's the question. How much do we have left? How much has he relied on it in order to mitigate a sharp increase in energy prices? Well, I want to go through some of those numbers with you right now because we are in fact running out. So we're running out so much that CNBC literally just asked Andy Lippo, who is from Lippo Oil Associates, whether Trump might need to implement a ban on oil exports. Take a look.
The question is, how long can we continue on this trajectory of drawing down inventory? And I think that is the biggest concern of the market.
What are the conditions as you see them? The conditions, the triggers, and any other statutory thresholds relating to the US stockpile, and at what point do they need to be triggered, especially for refined products, before Washington orders export restrictions?
Well, I'm looking at a few things. First of all, on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, we've already withdrawn over 100 million barrels of oil from there. The last tranche is leaving the SPR over the next 3 weeks. So the market is going to lose about 700,000 or 800,000 barrels a day of that supply. When I look at Cushing oil inventories, which are around 21 million barrels, we've been bouncing around the commercial inventory minimums of 18 to 20 million barrels. So that is a concern. And as we go into the fall agricultural harvest season and the upcoming heating oil season, I am concerned that distillate inventories, and namely diesel, which is the tightest refined product around the world, is approaching 100 million barrels. And that's going to be a very psychological level for the market.
Now, I should note that while the closure of the Strait of Hormuz has a lot to do with what's going on right now with the limited supply of oil, something else that's contributing to this mess is the fact that Ukraine keeps striking Russia's refineries, which is further limiting the supply of oil being traded globally. So great job, Ukraine, really helping us out, really showing Russia what's what by striking their refineries. Okay. Stocks of crude oil in the US Strategic Petroleum Reserve fell by about 3.7 million barrels to 289.7 million barrels last week. And that's the lowest level since November of 1982. I wasn't born in 1982 yet, but I hear, Cenk, that in 1982 there was some problems with an oil shortage or something like that.
Oh yeah, there was a ton of problems back then, and now we're back to those same ton of problems. But this was totally voluntary; it didn't need to happen at all. So this is actually a pretty good piece by Wall Street Journal, the one where we found out, where everybody stands, and I'll give you a grain of salt on it. But clearly, as they explain, Israel asked us to start this war. They lied to us about their ability, our abilities, their abilities. All the intelligence they gave us was fake, as always.
They lied about the likely outcome of the war, and I want to just help you visualize what the outcome of the war is so far. Let's go to graphic 3 real quick, Cenk, because I want to show the audience what our Strategic Petroleum Reserve looks like right now. So this is a graph dating back to 1990, and as you can see, there's a sharp decline in our strategic petroleum reserves, beginning with the Russian invasion into Ukraine, because obviously that led to the destruction of some of the oil infrastructure in that region. And then of course, you see another sharp decline in our strategic energy reserve, or petroleum reserve, I should say, after the war in Iran started.
Yeah, and so look, if Israel needs all of our defensive missiles and all of our high-tech offensive missiles and all of our money and all of our wars and all of our oil, well then Israel's got to get it, because if you don't, you're an anti-Semite. So I'll get back to the point of this story, which is partly to protect some political people, partly true, partly to protect people.
I report the news for a living, and one thing I never want to do is let one media outlet decide for me what the story is or which part of it matters. That's one of the reasons why I use Ground News. It's a website and app that brings reporting from across the political spectrum together in one place, but let me actually show you what that means. I can open basically any story and immediately see the bias distribution of the coverage. I can compare how outlets are writing their headlines, check the factuality ratings of the sources, and even see who owns them. So instead of just reading a headline and moving on, I have context about where that information is coming from and how differently the same story is being presented. But one of my favorite features is the blind spot feed. It specifically surfaces stories that one side of the political spectrum is barely even covering at all, which is incredibly useful if you're trying to get outside of your own media bubble. And you can create custom feeds around the topics you actually care about, so you can personalize what you follow and want to see more of. That's why I genuinely love Ground News. It gives me more control over how I consume the media, and I think that's something all of us could use right now. Go to ground.news/TYT or just scan the QR code to get 40% off the Vantage plan. That's the same plan we use. That's ground.news/TYT.
But guys, I want you to understand the calamities that are coming. So Anna has explained a bunch to you guys where we have a global shortage on oil, and then gas per barrel is $143. It's not the same as the oil by itself or in the aggregate. Diesel's up to $190 per barrel. So this is a global problem. But on top of that, we showed you Scott Besson in that beginning video. They have a new genius idea, which is if you work with Iran in any way and you try to avoid the sanctions that Iran is under, we're not going to let you trade in dollars anymore. But then wait, that hurts us way more than it hurts them.
It seems like this administration is hellbent on hurting us.
Yeah.
They've been doing a great job.
Like if they were trying to hurt America, I'm not sure they could do it any better job.
Let me give you another example real quick. Let's talk about food, because it turns out that the Strait of Hormuz is pretty important when it comes to transit of fertilizer, which is incredibly important for farmers when it comes to growing food. And so disruptions in global trade, especially spurred by the Iran war, mean that consumers can expect to see significant inflation when it comes to food prices. A new report from JP Morgan warns that global food costs could climb 5% in the first half of 2027. That's up from the current US food inflation rate of 3%, a number that's already putting pressure on household budgets. Other countries, by the way, are going to be hit way harder than the United States, but even Fox Business is concerned about this. Take a look.
Corn, soybean, wheat conditions are all deteriorating, and JP Morgan is warning of a potential global food crisis. Could this be the beginning of that, Scott?
Well, they say it is. I mean, they'll make the argument that we're already starting that. We've had some trouble this year with our crops. Mother Nature has not been complying as well. It's not a disaster by any means, but it's just not what we thought we were going to be getting. But the real key here, for the first time in a long time, Ashley, is the fact that we've got a problem with logistics. So weather has taken a back seat. Logistics around the world has slowed up. I mean, we've heard about the Straits of Hormuz, but we've got another issue in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov with the Kerch Straits. We've got problems there with wheat, and both of them have problems with fertilizer. And when we don't put down as much fertilizer, guess what happens to yields? So this is a cascading event. So this is a logistics issue, it's a weather issue, geopolitical issue, and they're all kind of stacking up, unfortunately, for the perfect storm, where JP Morgan sees food inflation at 5% next year.
So if you're wondering, okay, well, what are the details? What kind of fertilizer are we talking about here? The Strait sees about 1/3 of the world's nitrogen fertilizer, an essential form of fertilizer for around half of the world's crops. Nitrogen fertilizer shortages are a ticking time bomb because it's needed during the early stages of crop growth. We could still be feeling the effects of a shortage as much as a year later. So Cenk, to your point, you are absolutely correct. It seems like this administration is hell-bent on hurting our country.
Let's just note, I mean, I feel bad saying this, but because the brother was saying things that are true, but let's note that he was talking about fertilizer while dressed as a cow.
I know. I will allow it though. I will allow it.
Hey, you know what though? But that's why we love freedom in America.
We do.
You do you, boo, okay?
As long as you're saying the right things.
Or you do you, moo.
Okay.
Okay.
This is a serious story, okay?
Serious story, back to serious. Okay, Scott Bessent's quote, I'm going back to that. He said, the reporter asked him, well, so why don't you just do the sanctions now and take everybody off the dollar if it's so important? And he said, well, why do you think I would blow up the entire global financial system? Oh, so when we do start taking countries off the dollar, our Treasury Secretary just told you, it would blow up the entire global financial system. Because
he's bluffing. They're not.
No, Scott Bessent's not gonna do that. Like, he knows business. That's why he accidentally said that. He's like, oh, why would I blow up the entire global financial system? Because Trump told him to, and he's like, why would we do that? Let's at least delay it.
Right.
And then he couldn't help but blurt that out.
But you agree with me, right? In that there aren't gonna be consequences for China if they continue doing business with Iran, which, by the way, China has already signaled. Yeah, you could take your secondary sanctions and shove it. I mean, I'll give you the exact quotes in just a minute, but our economy is too interwoven with China's.
So I don't know if they're gonna follow through on the bluff, Anna, but here's what I do know, the point you're making, which is that China is not going to give in to the bluff. And neither is Russia now, and neither is Brazil or a whole heap of countries.
Or Turkey, does business with Iran.
Right, so now here's why they're not gonna give it. Number one, an enormous percentage of China's oil comes from Iran. So they're not gonna be like, oh, you know what, we don't need oil, don't worry about our economy. Oh, what do you need, America and Israel? Yeah, we'll help you instead. 0% chance of that. We're financing a war against Russia. Do you think Russia's gonna be like, oh, sorry, sir, we'll do whatever you say, sir, right? This is like the fantasies of children.
It's amazing.
And so that's why Bessent knows we can't actually do this. And now the second reason why they're gonna call our bluff is because everybody knows all Trump ever does is bluff. They're like, oh, you're gonna take us all off the dollar, forcing us to use maybe a Chinese currency or maybe gold to get around the dollar system? Don't threaten us with a good time. So all it would do was like nearly permanently damage America because we can't get people back onto the dollar system once it's no longer the global reserve currency. I mean, you cannot hurt this country any more than Donald Trump is trying to hurt it. And now all the way back to the article about the war. Excuse me. What is this all in service of? As usual, the war that Israel wants.
Right.
And if Israel wants this country destroyed so they have a slight advantage in the Middle East, well, then that's what we're gonna do.
Oh, God.
So now in the Wall Street Journal, this article is a little bit, so a lot of everything they say appears to be true. It matches up with what the facts we've seen in the context. That's why I was like, oh, surprisingly good piece.
For instance, like Tulsi Gabbard, it has always pretty much been consistent in putting out the intelligence indicating that Iran was not building nuclear weapons. The advice that she gave to Trump in the lead up to this war was accurate. She predicted accurately that all these terrible things were gonna happen if he decided to start the war. And look, I've been critical of Tulsi Gabbard in the past, but in this regard, she was correct.
Yeah, and if all of that turns out to be as it's being reported, then hey, you know what? Good job, Tulsi Gabbard. We were very tough on her. We were right. She switched over to Trump, did all these crazy things. But if at the end she was anti-war and she left because of being anti-war, then I'm going to give her enormous credit for that. Okay, so now in the story, people are clearly leaking for their own benefit. So that's why I say if that turns out to be true. So Tulsi's clearly leaking for her benefit. JD Vance is in the story as, oh, he was always opposed to the war. No, he wasn't. No. That's a lie, okay? And then all these people, oh yeah, I was against the war, I was against the war. What is that? That's the rats leaving a sinking ship.
100%,
and
yes.
But what that article tells you, but the very fact that it exists, that those people had to leak that to preserve their political career, means that the Trump, people inside the Trump administration know for a fact they are on a sinking ship. Now, the last part is also very interesting. So who did they blame it all on? Now, they partly explained clearly that Israel lied us into this war, which was shocking in any American media, let alone the Wall Street Journal. But then they went on to say, no, the real problem is Pete Hegseth and General Kane. Okay.
How does the bottom of that bus look, boys?
Exactly.
You like being thrown under it?
Yeah. So Hegseth finds him himself at the very bottom of that bus.
He does belong there.
Yeah, and so that article explains, and they're the only two that did not give comment for this article. The others are giving off the record comments. It was Hegseth. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was General Kane. Raising Kane my ass. It's his fault, right?
Den of vipers.
Yeah, of course, exactly. So. But is it true? Yes. So what is it that Hegseth and Kane and the other military generals did? They made it seem like, oh, can't wait for this war. This war is gonna go great. We're gonna destroy them and it's gonna be so much fun. And we're gonna blow this up and we're gonna blow that up and you're gonna look super tough. And remember what we did in Venezuela? We won it so quickly. You're gonna be a hero. We're gonna be heroes. We're gonna be the stars of this war. We're gonna blow everything up. Oh, it's gonna be great. Oh yeah, we'll murder a lot of people. Like, oh, and we'll destroy the American economy. But we're gonna be the stars and it's gonna be easy and you're gonna be a hero, a war hero for peace. And Trump was like, oh yeah, I like blowing things up for peace. And I love Israel. I mean, I don't love them, but they have the tapes. So they all agreed and they went into that war. And now the people leaving the ship go, oh, I wasn't for it. And by the way, I'll do a quick prediction here. I don't know when, a year from now, 5 years from now, but at some point, everyone in Washington is going to tell you, oh no, I knew how problematic Israel was. Oh no, I knew about their undue influence in this country. No, I was against it the whole time. Oh no, I was secretly, very secretly, privately against what they were doing. I was trying to help from the inside.
Let me just be very clear. This is a grudge that I will never let go of. So I'll never forget. Everyone who defended going to war against Iran, everyone who defended Israel's treachery in Gaza, in southern Lebanon, in the West Bank, in the whole of the Middle East, let's keep it 100. I'm never gonna forget your name.
And by the way, at the same time, fair is show in America. So if you do bad, we don't forget. But if you come to the right side on issues, hey, God bless. So Glenn Greenwald and I had fights. Now we're on the same team, we're fighting for the same cause, end the wars, end the genocide, and free America. Make America free again. Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, no problem, forget the past. You're doing right, okay? I love it, let's keep going forward together. And Tulsi Gabbard, we were 100% against Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
And
because I didn't believe her anymore.
Yeah.
She had reneged on so many things. I'm like, is she really anti-war? I don't know if I'm buying it. But it turns out that she was trying to do good within the administration.
We think, I mean, these are leaks coming from people like Tulsi Gabbard, right? But if it's proven out that she really was anti-war, all is forgiven. Because then you tried to stop the war, you're a hero, okay? So that it's not about taking sides. It's not about being biased. It's not about, definitely not about partisanship. It's about who's doing right and who's doing wrong. Our job is, to the best of our abilities, is to find the truth and deliver it to you guys. So if they were against the war, then we love them for it, because it's not a little thing. It's a gigantic thing. If you were helping Israel throughout to betray America, that is not a small thing. That is not a medium-sized thing. That is everything. And by the way, if we find out you were coordinating with the Israeli government, that's what jails were made for. And I'm not in DSA with the abolishing prisons. No, we could build a giant prison for people, not people based on religion. That's of course what they'll say. Oh, they're doing it against Jews.
People who are traitors to our country.
No, it had nothing to do with religion.
Sold us out.
Not if you like Israel because you grew up liking Israel. No. Nobody's gonna touch you, and nobody's gonna do anything to anyone unless you follow the law meticulously and go, oh, it turns out this guy broke the law. Here's a direct piece of evidence where he's coordinating with a foreign government to betray our government. Then you're gonna go to prison. That's what's gonna happen. And you can cry about it all day long. You can pretend everybody's an anti-Semite, okay? And you could do all of your disgusting, dirty tricks. But if we get an honest American president in 2028, we're gonna find the people who unleashed this plague upon us. And if they were working with a foreign government, they should be punished severely.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.